if you claim yourself to be the king of a region, you better be prepared to back it up. Back in the early 2000s, up-and-coming rapper from Atlanta, Georgia, T.I, proclaimed himself the king of the South while promoting his debut album, I'm Serious, on Arista Records. He was then released from the label and moved to Atlantic Records, and also started his own label, Grand Hustle, which is where his career would take a sharp upturn with the release of his second album, Trap Music, which is considered by many to have coined the phrase for the trap subgenre, which has become increasingly popular in rap since then. Meanwhile, in Houston, Lil Flip was rising in popularity as well with the release of his debut album, The Leprechaun, in 2000, then became a member of Screwed Up Clique, being welcomed in by DJ Screw, who had given him the nickname the Freestyle King. He then dropped his major label debut album titled Underground Legend in 2002 on Columbia Records. The beef allegedly started between the two artists around the release of Flip's third album, the double disc You Gotta Feel Me, which includes the hit singles Sunshine and Game Over, his biggest songs to date. Game Over also wound up getting Flip and his label sued for copyright infringement by Namco due to the video game sample in the beat. If you don't recognize the sample, it comes from Pac-Man. According to both artists, they met at a photo shoot for The Source magazine. According to T.I, Nick Fury, the producer for the song, was a friend of his and wanted to get him on the remix, so he talked to Flip about it.
I had spoke to Flip, I had spoke to Columbia, just off of this man's merit, because I know him and we cool. He produced the song, and he asked me to do a verse for him for the remix, so I did it.
According to Flip, he had already done a remix of the song, so he turned down T.I.
I appreciate, you did a verse, but hey, I didn't already did it, so I told him he couldn't be on the remix.
T.I was soon afterwards sent back to prison due to a parole violation, and The Source decided to reshoot the cover of the magazine, leaving T.I off it while he was locked up.
And after that, he went to jail. We shot the cover over, got out of jail, and I was on the cover, and it's jealousy, man.
During this time, Lil Flip allegedly took shots at T.I during the Music Midtown Festival in Atlanta later that year. While backstage, Lil Flip was talking to some women and allegedly claimed himself to be the king of the South and dissed T.I. And one of the women was a friend of T.I.'s girlfriend, Tiny, which caused T.I to catch wind of it through a phone call.
There's this event in Atlanta called Music Midtown. Flip was backstage with some girls around. One of them happened to be a friend of Tip's girl. Flip was talking some shit, you know what I'm saying, about, I'm the king of the South, or T.I.'s this, T.I.'s that, blah, blah, blah.
This is all while I'm incarcerated. And these girls, like, little does he know, are friends with my girl.
According to T.I and his crew, Flip had dissed T.I on stage at the festival.
So he went right to the stage and said, who's the king of the South, who's the king of the South? Everybody said T.I. Whole crowd screamed T.I. Flip said, fuck T.I. Tell T.I. said game over, and would drop Game Over and do his show on that.
He would also make claims to having a tape of Lil Flip dissing him on stage.
Like somebody said that they had it on video.
He say he got the tape. Show the tape, nigga. You know why the tape ain't surfaced? Because it's a fucking lie.
Later on, T.I was allowed out temporarily to shoot a video as part of a work release program, and at that same time, another inmate had escaped. However, it was found to be unrelated to T.I. He was also allowed to leave for the Hot 107.9 birthday bash, which also took place in Atlanta. On stage, he dissed Lil Flip, who was also set to perform there as well. He dared Flip to come up on stage and had pictures of Flip in the Leprechaun suit from his debut album, The Leprechaun. After T.I dissed Flip on the stage, they shut down his set, likely out of fear of things escalating to violence given the situation.
We was go get out and go up there, and they were like, man, if something go down. Security, police, all these motherfuckers are like, hey man, listen, they just shut this shit down.
According to Flip, he wasn't able to make it to the stage because his flight was delayed, so he arrived late. Also, according to T.I, Flip sent his father to reach out to T.I in order to squash the beef, and T.I responded by telling him that he can't get him out of the beef.
He sent his father to call me, like his father called me before they came to the birthday bash and was like, hey man, can we squash this, and yada yada yada, trying to mediate. So I was like, honestly man, you didn't get him in this situation, and I don't see very well how you could get him out.
Flip in response stated that he didn't send his father out there and that his father did it on his own volition.
I didn't send him I didn't tell you, hey, call T.I, call this nigga. He did that shit on his own because he my daddy. And he from the streets, and he my daddy. You dig what I'm saying? So ain't no nigga gonna give a fuck about you more than a motherfucker that had you.
After the birthday bash incident, Lil Flip had an interview in the UK with Tim Westwood and dissed T.I on a freestyle there as well. That being the freestyle of Fat Joe's hit single Lean Back. On the freestyle, he disses T.I, making claims of him being a snitch and that's why he got out early, and addressed the Leprechaun suit by stating that it made him money. He also references the whole game over situation with the lines, "I should've known you was a snake when you was at the Source photo shoot just smiling in my face, trying to get on a Game Over remix, but I told you no, I only do tracks with niggas that I think dope." And he also disses T.I for only going gold. T.I might be known as a platinum selling artist now, but at the time, trap music had only gone gold. The album did go platinum later on, however, while Lil Flip's second album was already platinum and his third album was on the way there. Afterwards, T.I and DJ Drama released the mixtape Down with the King, which was full of disses to Flip. From the intro titled Hunting for a Leprechaun being an obvious reference to Flip's debut album, the tone is set on how T.I felt about Flip at the time. Then there's the track Welcome Back, being a freestyle to Mace's hit single titled Welcome Back from the album of the same name. T.I mentions his prison stint and disses Flip for what he sees as trying to claim his throne from him with lines like, "Within a matter of weeks, thought they had me for 3. You could pose with the game, but she married me. Missed me while I was gone, now I'm back in the zone. Got a message for the nigga who attacked the throne." T.I was supposed to be in for 3 years, but wound up getting released early. That ties into Lil Flip dissing him about getting out early, calling him a snitch and all that in his freestyle. Also in the mixtape is a phone conversation between Scarface, who was arguably the biggest rapper from Houston, and T.I, in which T.I asked him about Lil Flip, and Face states that he's never heard of Flip, basically denying that he's from the same neighborhood. However, Lil Flip would state in the interviews that he did indeed know Scarface, as he tried to sign him to Def Jam South while he was the head of the label, but he had essentially declined Scarface's offer and signed elsewhere, which offered more money. Also, Scarface makes a cameo in one of Lil Flip's older videos, that being for the song I Could Do That from his debut album. That track was followed by the freestyle 99 Problems but Lil Flip Ain't One, which is of course to the beat of Jay-Z's hit single 99 Problems from the Black Album. T.I went hard on Lil Flip here straight out the gate with the lines, "Like a pussy nigga named Lil Wesley trying to test me, on your best behavior what your faggot ass best be, choose words carefully when you address me, you ain't gotta like me but you're gonna respect me, or else you get wet like a jet ski, take 10 of these and live, that'll impress me." He also addresses the whole Game Over remix issue and states that he's not mad about it like Flip made him out to be. One of the funniest lines in the song, however, is him taking shots at Flip's street credibility. "Nigga, lyrically I'll murk you, physically I'll hurt you, you ain't never ran the streets, you had a curfew." He also mentions Flip's father here as well with the lines, "Daddy should've got some head, bet he wish he would've worn a rubber, but he didn't, so now I guess the world gotta suffer." He then goes on to mention Scarface and other rappers from Texas like Paul Wall, Mike Jones, and Slim Thug, who at this time were all gaining recognition. T.I continues it into the outro saying Lil Flip is from the suburban part of Houston, that he's gonna go down there and see him, and continues going in on the Leprechaun suit from Flip's debut album. Ironically enough, that threat of a fight would come to fruition, although a little bit later. During the conversation with Scarface, he mentions another Houston artist T.I should talk to, that being Lil Third, who had issues with Lil Flip himself. The mixtape includes parts of conversations between T.I and Houston rapper Lil Third, as well as T.I and Hump, the owner of Sucker Free Records, which Lil Flip used to be signed to and released the Leprechaun album on. In both conversations, T.I asks about Lil Flip, and they speak about how Flip wasn't really in the streets, once again taking shots at his credibility. Lil Third in their conversation denies that Lil Flip is even from Cloverland, which is the neighborhood in Houston that Flip claims. Also on the mixtape, the track It's Been Said, featuring Mac Boney and Lil Third, is another diss to Lil Flip. T.I mentions Lil Flip talking about him backstage at the show to women, and makes mention of Flip getting robbed, and again this is his street credibility, and Mac Boney and Lil Third diss him as well. On the track No Problems, which is a freestyle on the beat from the Lil Scrappy hit single No Problem, T.I once again disses Flip, including a line talking about Flip's alleged $22 million deal that he signed with Columbia Records. Speaking of record deals, in interviews later when asked about Scarface and the potential signing the Def Jam South, he would state that the reason he didn't sign is because they only offered about $250,000 and that it wasn't enough.
They was just talking about the numbers. It just wasn't enough money in the deal. I already had money from the streets.
Because that when he was over Def Jam South.
Yeah, they was like offering, I think, either it was $250,000 or it was $500,000. I forgot which one it was. But man, I had already made that.
If Columbia Records truly offered $22 million, I can see why. Of course, T.I. is refuting that in the track, but Flip and Columbia knows what he really signed for. Back to the mixtape. In the conversation with T.I. and Hump essentially tells T.I. that he taught Flip things like how to shoot guns, and when asked by T.I. about if Flip was really in the streets, Hump tells him that Flip was a schoolboy and used to get beat up back in school, and that he had to basically teach him how to defend himself. If it's all true, then it's certainly not the best look for Flip. But it also comes across questionable, as at this time, Hump and Flip clearly had their own issues for Hump to so freely talk to T.I. about their past dealings. On the track Keep Talking featuring Lil Third, they also dissed Lil Flip once again. According to Hump, Lil Third was the original Leprechaun, but Lil Flip wanted the title as well. To me, it sounds pretty funny, honestly. Some would say that Lil Third had beef with Flip because of jealousy of Flip getting more recognized using the whole Leprechaun title. Lil Third has even dissed Flip on his own outside of the T.I. disses. On a freestyle to the Ether beat, Lil Third dissed Flip taking shots again at his street credibility and essentially stealing his name and running with it, and mentions Flip getting smacked by fellow Texas rapper Lil Ron. He also dissed Flip on the track CB4 Niggas. If you've seen the film CB4, then you should already know the idea. Basically dissing Flip for being a fake gangster again. Remember how I mentioned earlier about the beef starting around the time of the Game Over track and the Source photo shoot? Well, according to an interview from Donnie Houston TV with C-Note and D-Red, members of the Botany Boys group, which itself is a part of the Screwed Up clique, the beef between T.I. and Lil Flip started a bit earlier than that, as they would state that while going to a show with Flip around the time that T.I. had released the hit single 24s, that T.I. and Flip were performing at the same show in Texas, and that even back then, T.I. was acting funny around them. 24s was released in April 2003, so if T.I. really had an issue with Flip back then that would date this beef back to at least 03 rather than 04. T.I. also dissed Flip on the track Easy to Scare, and as the title implies, he states that he isn't easy to scare and that Flip is. As usual, shots are thrown dismissing Flip's toughness and questioning his alleged closeness with DJ Screw. The latter is something that would be coming from multiple rappers from Texas, as some would claim that Flip was never that close to DJ Screw, who had passed away back in 2000, which is the same year that he was welcomed into the Screwed Up clique. Basically a Tupac and Young Noble situation. Tupac welcomed Young Noble into the Outlaws only a couple of months before his death, so their closeness is in question due to them not knowing each other that long. Anyways, Easy to Scare is another pretty good diss track. One of my favorite lines is, "Don't get your little ass flipped, you as lame as they come. Better keep the hate out your lungs and my name out your gums. Before I grab this Beretta, let it rustle your tongue and put the legend underground like you say in your song." A clever line using the name of Lil Flip's second album, Underground Legend. Speaking of which, T.I.'s third album, released later that year, was called Urban Legend and is one of his best albums. Lil Flip, however, would state that T.I. copied him with the album title.
If you mad about one thing, you go talk about one thing and that's it. You know what I'm saying? What the fuck my deal got to do with the beef? If you don't like me, why you go get a grill like me? If you don't like me, why you do a song with Destiny Child like me? The name of my album is Underground Legend. Your name, Urban Legend. Come on, man. That's some girl shit, dog.
Considering their beef and all at the time, it's possible that this was done to try to diss Flip too. Especially considering on this album were some more disses to Flip as well. Before I get to that though, I don't want to make it seem like Flip just sat there and took this verbal assault from T.I. with no disses sent back, because that certainly wasn't the case. Several diss tracks were released from Flip as well around this time, one of those being What's Beef, named after the Biggie track of the same name released years prior. Flip makes a comparison to Tupac in the track, and at the end sends a sharp jab at T.I., mocking the fact that it took T.I. 4 videos for his trap music album to go gold, while Flip's second and third albums both went platinum. Flip also dissed T.I. on the track They Call Me FLIP, which has him rapping over the beat to Blueprint 2 from Jay-Z's album of the same name, and that song was a diss track as well. For more details on that track and that beef, go check out the Jay-Z vs Nas video on the channel. On this track, Flip once again comes at T.I. for being a gold rapper while he's a platinum selling one. At that point, that would definitely be true, but within a year or so, T.I. became one of the biggest names in rap and a platinum selling artist as well. He has one line in particular on the song dissing Lil Third as well, that being, "I'm always in first place, I can never be third." Wordplay on Lil Third being basically a third-rate rapper compared to Flip, but also can be seen as Flip saying he can never be in third place behind both T.I and Lil Third. Or maybe it had nothing to do with Lil Third at all. Subliminal shots, right? Then later that year in November, T.I released his third album, Urban Legend, that I mentioned earlier. That album featured the hit songs Bring 'Em Out, ASAP, and You Don't Know Me. The former would be the biggest song of his career to that point, and the latter two are two of my favorite T.I songs ever. You Don't Know Me also got him a Grammy nomination. All three of the tracks feature some general shots at haters, but on ASAP, Flip is mentioned by name in the third verse, and considering their beef at the time, it's fair to say that the haters that T.I was addressing in the other tracks includes Flip as well. All this back and forth dissing resulted in T.I going down to the Houston radio station 97.9 in March of 2005, dissing Flip and declaring that he was going to head to Cloverland and record a video. The two crews ran into each other in the Cloverland neighborhood, and things once again turned into a he said, she said sort of situation. According to T.I, Lil Flip stayed inside a car and refused to come out, and while he was approaching him, someone snuck up and sucker punched him, and a fight ensued before gunshots broke up the fight and everyone left. Lil Third also had an interview with Donnie Houston, and in that he described the altercation from his point of view. According to him, T.I and Flip never fought each other.
Make a long story short, bro, that shit, Tip and Flip ain't never get the squabble. Wasn't no blows exchanged between them. All these bullshit ass stories, niggas talking about this, talking about that, saying this, saying that. Flip ain't never hit Tip ain't never hit Flip.
Black Al Capone, a rapper and associate of Flip, is the one that snuck T.I.
Tip on side of me now, so the nigga Capone try to beat for Tip from behind. But mind you now, you got me and Tip side by side. You got people standing behind me and Tip. So he was trying to reach over them to hit Tip. You feel what I'm saying? So when he swung, he couldn't really get no good lick. You feel what I'm saying?
And was then beaten down and given a broken arm during the altercation.
They turned around and punished him, broke the nigga arm and all. That's how he had the cast on. They slammed the nigga up and down on the car, fucking him up. He talking about he hit Tip and that's how he got all this gay shit. Bro, you couldn't even land no punch, no solid punch.
And that T.I and Flip mostly just talked from a distance, but he states that he himself ran towards Flip, but Flip was running from him.
In the midst of that, I done took off toward Flip. He running around the car, run around Roe car. The car Roe was sitting in. Roe was sitting in the car the whole time.
And then someone started firing off in the air to make everyone scatter.
Now when Flip run around the car, this whole ass nigga from the hood get to popping in the air. Well, he ain't from Cloverland, you know what I'm saying? He from the hood over, you know what I'm saying? This bitch ass nigga get to popping in the air. You really popping in the air to save them niggas from a nigga punishing they whole ass.
C Note and D Red in that same interview I mentioned earlier when asked about the altercation would describe the situation similarly. That T.I and Flip didn't get a chance to fight, someone punched T.I from their side. According to Third, that was Black Al Capone. Then he was rushed by the group of men, and then shots were fired to disperse the crowd.
When they stood out, T.I got stole off on with somebody who was with us, and the bodyguards grabbed him up, and by that time it's a big commotion. Next thing you know, shots fired, and you know when shots get fired, everybody's scattering, and you know what I mean? I'm looking, making sure my people are all right, and shit, that was it. It was over after that.
So from both sides, most things were pretty accurate besides details like which side exactly was the one to fire the warning shots in the air. Some say it was T.I.'s bodyguard, while some say that it was someone on Lil Flip's side. Either way, the fight was definitely broken up and they left, but the beef still continued. T.I and Lil Third had recorded footage of them down in Texas dissing Lil Flip, and people from Cloverland recorded videos also, talking about what happened from their perspective. Lil Flip and fellow Houston rapper Zero released a mixtape shortly after the altercation, which features some tracks taking shots at T.I as well. On the title track, a subliminal shot is thrown at T.I with the lines, "This skinny nigga will never be in my position. How you gonna fight when you got malnutrition?" T.I is known for being pretty skinny, which Lil Flip has mentioned previously. He also mentions wanting to fight T.I. Considering how quickly this was released after the altercation, this was probably recorded before it, however. Then on the song Fuck That Nigga, featuring fellow Botany boys Will Lean and BG Duke, as well as fellow Texas rapper Point Blank, Flip disses T.I on his verse and also mentions Ludacris, who T.I had beef with prior as well. Zero also takes shots at T.I on his verse with the lines, "Ain't nobody help me get rich, I made myself that change." Talking about charging me $20,000 to spit a verse, bitch, I'm a legend, read about me. Fuck it, come and see about me. Right now I'm at war with 11 niggas and 7 record labels. You can jump your narrow ass in line and straight up get strangled. On the track The Cops, Flip sends subliminal shots at T.I with a line referencing someone beefing with him to get fame, which can be easily seen as a T.I diss considering Flip had more popularity than T.I when the beef first started. Then on the track The Art of War, Flip disses someone and makes a mention of Atlantic Records, which once again is a subliminal T.I shot as T.I had been signed to Atlantic Records since his second album. On the track Remember Me, Flip disses T.I throughout his third verse with lines like, "And the beef squashed if you admit you a fan. Can't nobody down here do it like I do, and we extort niggas. What about you, nigga, move? Cause I ain't got nothing to prove. Before Never Scared, wasn't nobody fucking with you." Never Scared being the hit single by Bone Crusher, which features fellow Georgia rappers Killer Mike and T.I, and was the first hit song T.I was featured on. At the time, T.I had released his first album, which fared poorly, but hadn't put out his second album yet. So this is pretty accurate, as shortly after that song is when he started to release songs like 20 Foes and Rubber Band Man. Flip also disses T.I on the track Get It Crunk from the mixtape. Not long afterwards, Rap-A-Lot founder and Houston native Jay Prince had gotten a sit down with Lil Flip and T.I in order to squash the beef. After this, the diss tracks would essentially slow down, but occasional shots were still thrown for a little while. In 2006, T.I released his fourth album, King, which features the hit single, What You Know. On the second and third verses of the song, some of the lines can easily be seen as subliminal shots at Lil Flip, especially the very last lines of the third verse. "I'm in your hood, if you a gangster what you hid for, somebody better get bruh before he gets set for. Say you wanna squash it, what you still talking shit for?" Considering the altercation that occurred the year prior, it's fair to say those lines and other ones in the song are directed at Flip. However, both would say that after they had the sit down with Jay Prince, that the beef was indeed over, and since then, no other physical altercations occurred between the two. Then in 2021, for the Bone Thugs and Harmony and 3 6 Mafia verses, Lil Flip made a guest appearance to perform Riding Spinners with 3 6 Mafia. Since then, he has stated that he would be willing to do a verses with T.I for at least $500,000. Ultimately, the beef is a relatively clear-cut one as far as which artist came out with the biggest rap career. Both artists definitely continued to release music, but during the beef and afterwards, T.I became much bigger than he was beforehand. Some would say that it was due to beefing with Lil Flip, the bigger artist at the time, that did it, and would attribute Flip's decline in the mainstream due to the beef as well. Partly due to this beef, Flip would also begin beefing with other rappers in Texas as well besides Lil Third, which might have also hurt his career. Both released decent diss tracks against each other and represented the South. Personally, T.I is one of my favorite rappers, especially back then, but I also liked Flip's hits like Sunshine and Game Over. What do you think about the beef? Which rapper is your favorite? Let me know in the comment section below, and remember to hit that like button, subscribe if you liked the video, join the Discord server to talk about music and other things, and become a channel member if you want to support the channel even further.